Hello and welcome to Amazing Women in Business, a podcast where we celebrate the courage and tenacity of women who are not just participating, but profoundly transforming the business landscape. I'm Demi Lin, your host, and navigating the complexities of personal and professional growth across cultures. Each episode, we dive into stories that resonate deeply, featuring trailblazing women who break through barriers and confront challenges with grace and strategy. Whether you are seeking inspiration to take the next career leap or looking for wisdom to balance personal and professional demands, you are in the right place. Together, we explore not just successes, but the resilience required to thrive in today's dynamic business world. Get ready to be inspired, feel connected, and empower your journey with every story we unfold. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to welcome a dear tennis friend, Rachel Chadwin. Over the past year, Rachel and I have played tennis as teammates or sometimes as opponents. We spent our Mother's Day together with an incredible group of tennis moms. Our connection on and off the court is so natural, and I'm excited to bring that energy to today's episode. Rachel is a motivated and energetic leader in camping and recreation industry. She co-directs an all-boys overnight camp and co-owns an recreational company with her husband. Her journey from being a summer camper since childhood to now owning a camping business is a story of passion, persistence, and love. Having the end game of being a camp owner, Rachel and her husband spent 5 to 6 years learning every aspect of the business. They experienced a lot of self-doubt, regret, frustration, and failure, but they never gave up, knowing that this is what they are passionate about. They stayed true to their values, cultures, and vision, waiting patiently for the right opportunity that aligned with their beliefs. This commitment to authenticity shines through in every aspect of their camp, from the family-oriented environment they've cultivated to the values they instill in every camper. With a mission centered on making people happy, she finds that daily challenges become more manageable and even enjoyable. One of Rachel's invaluable insights is about balance, especially for ambitious women. She reminds us of the importance of taking a step back, giving ourselves permission to rest, and trusting that things will be okay. Rachel also offers thoughtful advice to women with international backgrounds who may be navigating unfamiliar cultures or seeking fitting. Her message is to stay true to yourself, be authentic, ask questions to understand others' perspectives, and don't hesitate to walk away from relationships that don't resonate. Much like a strong tennis partnership, Rachel believes in supporting each other and bringing out the best in those around us. I'm excited to dive into this conversation with Rachel as she shares her journey, insights, and strategies for building a business that stays true to one's values and passion. Hey Rachel, hi Debbie. Thank you for joining my Amazing Women in Business podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
It is. And would you like to kick off the podcast with a brief introduction of yourself and your background?
Sure. My name is Rachel Chadwin, and I run an all-boys overnight camp in Berkshires, Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, called Camp Mackinac.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the camping industry for over 25 years, and excited to talk to you about that side of business today and how I got there, and just what it's all about, because it's a pretty unique industry.
It is. I remember I got to know your camp industry while we were in the bus on the way to the tennis camp. Right? That's how we enjoy our spend our Mother's Day together.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wow, what is camp industry and what are you doing? That's very interesting, but I literally know nothing about this.
Mm-hmm.
So can you help us, maybe give us a little bit more about what camp industry is?
Sure.
And what inspired you in this industry?
So the summer camp industry comes in like all different shapes and sizes and forms, but essentially it's alternative activities for kids to do in the summer when they're not in school, when school session breaks, and you're looking for activities for your children to do in the summer. So when they're little, it starts out as, day camps where your kids will get on a bus at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they'll come home at 3:30 in the afternoon, and they'll spend the day doing, canoeing and arts and crafts and sports, arts camps, things like that. And then as they get older, a lot of kids will progress into an overnight camp.
Yes.
Where you actually leave your home and your family and you go live on a campus with other children and usually college-age young adults who take care of you. And, there's all different types of camps out there, whether it's a sports camp or our camp is a very traditional camp where we do athletics and outdoor adventure and media and STEM. And we have a huge waterfront, but there's science camps and there's academic camps and really essentially the camping industry is offering kids other extensive learning opportunities in the summer that aren't always school focused.
Yes. What inspired you to be in this? I know you have some kind of a little romantic story behind that.
I do have a romantic story, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily what inspired me to get into the camping industry, but it's definitely what has inspired me to stay in the camping industry.
That's
so. I went to camp as a young girl. I went to day camp, and then when I was 7 years old, I went away to my first overnight camp for 8 weeks. My parents would
2 months.
Send me away for 8 weeks.
And your parents enjoyed their honeymoon without kids.
Well, I was the oldest, so they still had 2 other children at home. But I think they very much, liked as the years went on that all 3 of us did eventually go to camp. So when I never liked school. I was not a school kid. I would sit in school and feel constricted and feel like I was made to sit at a desk and information was sort of just being like thrown at me and it didn't feel right and nothing ever really calculated to me or just felt natural about being in school. But when I went to camp and everything was hands-on learning, whether it was learning how to row a boat or catch a fish or shoot a basketball or hit a tennis ball or have a conversation with somebody and have to come to an agreement or have to solve a problem together, actually being in the moment and doing all of those things and like really experiential learning is what inspired me to love camp. It's where I felt like my best self. It's where I felt the most confident. It's where I felt the most powerful, just in terms of like being able to be in control of what I was doing and saying and the friends I was making and the people I was surrounding myself. And it just felt a lot more natural to me than school did. And from the time I was about 7 years old, it's just where I felt best about myself. And I continued on as a camper all throughout the time till I was 15 years old, and then eventually became a camp counselor, where I then was the adult living in the cabin with children, and I was, responsible for them. And at that point, my perspective shifted to having to make sure that the great experience that I had as a child was something that I was giving to the children that I was then taking care of. And it's just, in terms of being inspired, it's just where I always felt the best about myself and where I felt the most useful and the most confident and where I was happiest.
Wow. You probably can talk about the good things about camp for a whole day.
Hours. Days.
Yeah.
A lifetime. That's what I do.
So you kind of feel like you find a better you.
Yeah.
And you hone your either communication or leadership skills.
Yeah.
And then you make friends.
Yeah.
And you also met your husband there.
I did meet my husband there. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a fun story.
Yes.
You're asking, do you want to hear it? Of course.
I'm always curious about the love story.
So the short version is I went to an all-girls camp called Camp Timbertops in the Poconos, and the camp was owned by a family who had owned the camp since 1931.
Yeah.
So, when I was growing up, there was in its 70th year, 80th year, 90th year, long time running camp. My husband went to another camp that was owned by the same family, but it was co-ed. So as children, my camp used to compete against the girls at his camp. We played tennis matches or basketball games or gymnastics meets. And we got to know, just through friendships, we got to know each other as children. And then when we were counselors, we were both about 18, 19 years old. He was still at his camp, I was at my camp. We got to know each other a little bit better, and we have some funny stories about how we started dating, but we'll leave that for another conversation. But yeah, about 19 years old as camp counselors, we started dating and fell in love, and 4 years later we got married, and at that point I left where I was working as the camp counselor, and I moved over to his camp, and then we started working there together.
Yeah.
In the summers.
So I can see that the camping has been your whole life, right? When you were a kid, it helped you to find yourself, a better you, and then you learn, and then you improve, and you make friends. So it's kind of a natural path, right? From being a camper.
Yeah.
And now work for a camp, and then now being business owner in this camping industry. It's kind of a very natural move. But I will always be curious to know and understand more about, have you had any frustration or challenge? What wake you up in the middle of the night?
Yeah. Throughout the years as sort of a young professional in this field, you would see, so there's, a lot of these camps until recently have been owned by families. So they're family-owned businesses.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. There's more and more camps now that are being owned by large companies that sort of act as an umbrella company, and each camp has their own owner and director, but sort of they're umbrellaed by a large company that owns multiple camps. But when I was a young professional in this field, most camps were owned by families, and they became a generational ownership shift. So it was started by the grandparents, and then passed to the kids, and then passed to the next generation and the next generation. And although I found my place in camp and it felt like family, and it certainly was family, not by blood but by heart and feeling, we were never in a position where the camp that we were at was going to end up becoming ours. So, which was okay, that was okay, but it also meant that at some point we were going to have to break away and find our own camp if this was something that we really wanted to do together as a couple. So, I think one of the big frustrations for me along the way was when I reached a certain point of leadership and responsibility, short of then becoming an owner, we were never going to get there unless we closed the door on the opportunity that we had for our entire lives and went knocking on other doors for new opportunities. So, that was hard. The frustration was, when do you make that shift? When do you break away? How do you close the door on something that you've loved for your entire life and made you the person that you are and created, the life that you have now? And you have to at some point. If the camping industry is something that you really want to do, unless you have a second job and you're just working at camp in the summer, you'll never make enough money to support your family. So unless you become an owner.
Okay.
So you can't plateau at just being a great leader, because you can't raise a family doing that.
You mean like just working for the camping industry, like even being the director role? or
Correct.
for the camping industry, the income is probably not enough
It's
to
not
support
enough
the family.
to support a family, unless you have a second job. There's a lot of people who teach during the year,
Mm-hmm.
and then they run they're the director of their camp during
Yeah.
the summer and have a dual income. But if this
Mhm.
is something that you're trying to make a life out of and do,
Mm-hmm.
exclusively, there's a cap. It's not a business where,
Yeah.
it's not technology, it's not medicine, it's not law,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's education, and there's not a whole lot of money in education.
But that's always that's the moment, like the time when you and your husband you decided to
Mhm.
get into that camp industry, to be an owner. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful sight, right? I
Yeah.
look into the picture, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, it must be very expensive to own in the very initial stage.
Yes.
So that's courage. But other than that, like while you guys made that decision to own that business,
Mhm.
any journey, any thoughts, any confusion, uncertainty, how you guys deal with that? That might be very challenging in the initial stage.
Yeah, I think there was lots of confusion and lots of are we really doing this? How are we going to do this? And that sort of time in between when we left the camp that we had grew up at and worked at for so long, it took about 7 years before we bought our camp. So in the meantime, we were doing whatever we could to try to stay in the world of camping, and figure out how we were going to get from point A to point B. We owned another business for a while where we just used both of our talents and sort of worked as consultants and would go into summer camps and help train staff or set up. For instance, for 2 years I worked with the Lawrenceville School, and they were, they're a pretty premier boarding school in New Jersey that's really high school, it's really high school based, but they wanted to start a summer camp for middle school age children to sort of help the recruiting process for their high school. They brought me in. They brought me in as a consultant essentially, but I started this overnight camp for them for 2 years, which is now, it's now probably in its 12th or 13th year. But they had never run a summer camp with the idea of recreation. They'd always done camps that had an academic focus. And so I did that for 2 years, and I think during that time, and I took another job with an arts camp. Me, I'm an athlete. That was a whole different learning. I mean, I knew nothing about the world of arts, and
you majored in psychology.
Majored in psychology and physical education.
Yes.
So I took another job for 2 years, working at a not-for-profit arts camp, and those were two things. Like I knew nothing about the not-for-profit world, and I knew very little about arts, but I knew about children, and I knew about education, and I knew about youth development. And but I would say for those 4 years when I was working at the arts camp and then also working as a consultant with the Lawrenceville School, there were definitely times in there when I said, maybe this is not the right path for us. Like this is too hard, and I don't know when we're going to get to the end of what it is that we're looking for.
So while you're working that time, you already owned that camp or not yet, right? But did you have the mindset of, hey, I am going to own that business, and what I'm doing today is to prepare me to be a better owner when I own it?
Yes.
So you had that end game.
I had the end game. We had the plan. We spent those 4 or 5 years just trying to network and meet people and meet other camp owners, meet other people who could potentially be backers for us if we went and were ready to buy our own camp. How would we have the funds to do that? So we spent probably about 5 or 6 years sort of in limbo, knowing what the end game, knowing that we wanted to own our own camp. But trying to figure out, how do we stay involved in this game and make enough money? By this time we had 3 children.
Yeah.
How do we make enough money to support our family and, eventually get to where we're trying to be in owning our own camp? And there were absolutely moments of regret and failure and frustration and second guessing and third guessing all throughout that time, because my husband was a teacher and we weren't making a whole lot of money, and we had a family of 3 kids, and we're like, can we really do this?
Yeah.
But for the both of us, myself and my husband, this just sort of the instinct and the knowing that we both wanted this so much for ourselves and for our life and for our family, that was the driving force. It was, if we have to struggle in the meantime to make things work, we know that if we continue to push forward and we ultimately can create what it is that we want and what we're looking for, it's all worth it.
So you did have the doubt.
Yes.
And uncertainties, but because of your commitment to this, really help you guys stay through the whole challenges.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that, and we were just so passionate about it. We did everything we could to keep our foot in the door, and there's other people that would have gone about this differently. I think throughout that process, we probably looked at a number of different camps that we could have taken over and bought. We could have much more quickly than we did, and we spent 6 years in the interim, but they weren't the right fit for us. So one of the things that you'll learn about the camping industry is every camp has a different feeling, a different culture. They're based on different values. You have to think really, about the things that are important to you as a youth development professional. And we had a lot of opportunities along the way, but they didn't match up with the things that were important to us. So we kicked the can down the road a little longer until we found the right place.
Wow, so it takes patience.
Yeah.
Right? But I can get that, because you have your value and you want to pass the value into your camp.
Yeah.
Because you are having those kids throughout the whole summer, and these summers will become those kids' best memories.
Yeah.
It all will shape their personalities. It's so important that the value, the culture, the belief align.
Yes.
So we talked about the camping. I thought that you only need to be away for the summer, right? For 3 months, and then for the rest of the year you'll be great, just relaxing your time with your kids.
Right. That's why you think I play so much tennis. I have nothing else to do.
Yeah, I was thinking that's why you can do that. You can play tennis in the morning time. But is that true or
no? The 10 months out of the year that we're not at camp are extremely busy. People ask that all the time. Like, oh, you run a camp. What do you do the other 10 months out of the year? And it's probably my favorite question, because I think when we look at how our year is shaped, we work really hard the other 10 months out of the year to make the summer feel smoother, to make the summer work. So. That day one, when we welcome our first staff members, we welcome in 160 staff members a summer. We hire 160 people in the summer, between staff that lives in the bunk with the campers, to we have an entire kitchen staff of 15 people, a head chef, a sous chef. We have a housekeeping team, we have an office team, we have a medical team. We operate as our own small city, so you can't step in day one having no preparation and then just expect to run, the most, what should be the most fun, the most extraordinary experience for children in the summer without the preparation and planning. So, not only do we recruit, probably 90 to 100 new campers every year to fill spaces. We hire 150 to 60 staff members a year. We plan all of our programming, and that's just not just the daily things that the kids do during the day, but trips and other experiences and we manage capital projects, so every year we're building new things on camp, and that takes vetting, vendors and getting permits and all of the things you need to do when you build something. And most importantly, I think, at least my role in camp, I work with a team of 4 other people who are full-time employees, but this is a seasonal business, so if you don't stay engaged and involved with your customers the other 10 months out of the year, you risk losing them for the 2 months in the summer.
You're not getting enough of, right?
So, our product doesn't go on the other 10 months out of the year. It's just the 2 months in the summer. So I spend a lot of time reaching out to our families that send their kids to camp, planning events in different cities so that we can go and get our families together so that we can keep engaging them. We call it keeping camp alive in their life, the other 10 months out of the year. But that helps to build excitement, and it keeps them involved in the things that they have to look forward to for the next summer, and that takes a lot of time. We have 375 boys at camp. So a lot of families to stay in touch with throughout the year.
That's
so
much more complicated than what I thought.
It's complicated, it's fun, it's rewarding, it's not a 9-to-5 job, which is why you see me playing tennis whenever I want to, because I work in the morning, I break for tennis, I have lunch, I take care of my kids in the afternoon, and then I work again at night, and I work on the weekends, and it's not a job necessarily, it's a lifestyle. Running camp is very much a lifestyle. And you fit it in, wherever, you fit it in. That's just, your family revolves around camp, and camp revolves around your family. And
but you must be very busy, like it's kind of blending your camping industry work stuff, blending to your life.
Yes.
So how do you deal with the work-life balance, having 3 kids?
It's hard. I think whereas like yourself, a lot of people, one of their frustrations in the corporate world is when they go away to an office and they're traveling a lot and going on business trips, they miss that time with their family. Whereas we're lucky enough in this industry to incorporate a lot of what we do into our family life. So my kids spend time with me at camp in the summer. They go to their own camp too, so they have their own experience in the summer. But when they're not in school, they're able to be at camp with us and help us, just help us set up and get things ready, and certainly enjoy the facilities and stuff that we have at camp too. When we, when I have an event, it's typically something like an ice cream party or a bowling party or a pizza party. So I don't leave my kids at home, I take them with me. And they come and, we're usually with children most of the time. So my kids are able to fit right in and do a lot of the things that, most parents would have to leave their children at home in order to operate their business. But my business actually operates better when my kids are with me, and the other families that see me taking care of their children in the summer see that I take care of my own children, and so I can relate to a lot of their worries and their anxieties and their frustrations and their concerns because I'm a parent, and so my children are actually my family life is able to fit into our business in a very natural way. And my kids love camp, so they know, they go to the camp that my husband and I met, grew up at and met. That's where they go in the summer. It's called Pine Forest Camp, and they love it. So they understand what we do, and they respect what we do, and they enjoy being a part of what we do. And
yes, that's amazing. I think
that's unique.
Yeah, I think that's very unique because having most of my life in corporate, I know I compromise a little bit of my family time, but meanwhile I really enjoy, in corporate I make an impact, right? Making business decision, driving top line, bottom line growth. That it's giving me a lot of excitement and fulfillment. But I can see that from your being camping industry. You get to spend more time with kids, and you are doing things more around family, right? And then tap into the value that the whole family respect.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
and we own our own business, so we work for ourselves,
Mhm.
and I work out of the house. My husband likes his office space, so he actually
Yeah.
will go to a life workspace every day and work from there. But it allows me to, pick up my kids in the afternoon and to go to as many of their sporting events and their support them in all of their extracurricular activities, and then I piecemeal, my work in throughout the day wherever it fits. And certainly it's a priority, but it allows you to create a good balance.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, now owning this business, and you mentioned about all those challenges and the way how you manage the team, on season and off season, hiring the team, and then doing the project planning, engaging family off seasons, that's a big job.
Yeah.
And what belief or routine or behavior that make you being successful, getting to where you are today?
We operate our business and the people that work for us and with us, just like they are a part of our family. And even our customers, our families that send their children to camp, the campers that come live with us and their parents at home, we treat them like family. And so the same values that we would share with our own family, honesty, humor, loyalty, friendship, I would say customer service in a way, but more so, empathy, and making sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with, whether it's your employees or your clients, feel that those same values running through.
Yeah.
I think in the camping industry, you're sort of lucky enough to be able to take those same values that you would share as part of a family and really incorporate them into your business world. Our whole goal of what we do is to make people happy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
that's easy to me. That's easy. We are solving the world problems in other ways than some really smart people are, but we're solving them through helping create youth who know how to make decisions better, who know how to problem solve, who can communicate with one another, who can feel a sense of love, who know how to express their emotions.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things that we do. And my entire business is surrounded around how do I make people happy? How do I make people feel included? How do I make people feel excited about what's to come? And when that is your end goal, it's pretty easy and it's pretty enjoyable. And it allows you to, connect with the people that you're working with on a much different level than, working in an industry where you have to say no all the time. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to say no very often. We do whatever we can if it means making somebody happy, and that in turn is going to make them a better human being. We try to do it. And I think that's, again, it's pretty unique. This is a really unique industry that we're a part of.
I think it's not only just unique, but it's also very impactful.
Yeah.
You are passing the value, the family happiness to your clients, your customers. Yeah, that's exciting. So now, if we're looking back into your 20 years ago,
how old was I then? Yes.
What would you say to yourself 20 years ago?
I would say, keep pushing forward. I grew up, and probably around the time I was 15 or 16 years old, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And mostly, as I've learned about myself through the years, it was mostly because my expectations for myself and performance in life and in the world were so high. And I was constantly trying to achieve those results and perfections and keep those expectations really high, that it took a toll on my own body and my own, my own person. I would tell myself to relax, that, that if you put your heart and your mind, into it, and you plan and you prepare, that everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be okay. And
don't be too hard on yourself.
Don't be too hard on yourself. I've always had great friends and family surrounding me that, had I taken a step back and just taken a deep breath and realized, like, if I utilize the other people around me more so than what I'm doing, I don't have to feel so stressed about everything, and I'll have to internalize so much of what's going around me. So I think I would tell myself to step back, take a deep breath, relax. Everything is going to be okay. Your life is going to be what you can make of it and want to make of it. And as long as you continue to surround yourself with the people that bring the good energy.
I think that applies to everyone.
Yeah.
Or almost every amazing woman in business. While we are in business, we always have the high expectation on ourselves. And that sometimes that creates some unwanted, concern or anxiety.
Yeah.
Any other advice you're going to give to the other amazing women in business?
The other amazing woman in business. Look, I tell this to my kids all the time, and it's something that I'm working on all the time, but women have to be advocates for themselves and advocates for each other. We are too many times, I think, afraid to speak up when something is wrong or doesn't feel right, because we're worried about being silenced or being told that we're wrong, or just maybe knowing that our voice might not be heard. But through what I do and working with youth development and youth education, so often I have the opportunity to teach kids how to speak up for themselves in a way that won't cause conflict. And I don't do it enough for myself, and so I'm constantly reminding myself to do that. And that's what I would say to other women in business, is there are ways for you to use your voice that's kind and honorable and can create really good open lines of communication, and to not be afraid to use it.
Yes, I like it. And that's part of the fun part of the podcast. I feel like I can learn a lot of stuff from my guest speakers. And every time is a good learning. And we got close quickly because of our trip, right? For the spending Mother's Day together in a resort when we had fun together. And I remember during that time we were kind of talking about, I think, you kind of share a little bit about your knowing of Debbie, right? We were talking like anyone talk about the one sitting next to you. Did you? You say something about me, and then I say something about the one sitting next to me. So here's another very interesting question I always see myself. Coming here, right, being a first generation immigrants in the United States, I always see myself as a little bit different, right, from the mainstream. And so I'll be curious to see, you've been hanging out with some friends like me, having Chinese background, or other friends, right, from international background. What's your observation of them? Do you see some observation of the exciting part or any areas for improvement?
I'm always typically very curious and enamored by all different cultures and backgrounds and where people come from, and I'm a pretty curious person, so I'm usually not afraid to ask questions. Again, I think there's a way to use your voice in a way that won't cause conflict, and you can do it from a place of love. And I remember you and I had a really interesting conversation about, you were going back to China last summer, and there was a part of you that was worried that they were going to feel you had become too Americanized. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And
reverse culture shock.
Yeah.
Something like that.
No, but things where people come from, what their background is, why they do certain things, and this is the psychology part of me. I'm always very curious about that stuff. Do I ever find errors in it? No. No, I think they're all learning opportunities. Like anytime somebody does something differently from you, whether it's cultural based or religious or just the way they were raised or brought up, I just like to ask why, and then have an open mind for whatever the answer is, and try to be non-judgmental for why I might see things differently or do things differently. And I'm a believer in, and this is actually the same thing we talk about at camp all the time. I'm a true believer in, if we don't bring out the differences and the uniqueness of everybody around us, then we'll never grow as a community and we'll never grow as a society. So it's all these different strengths from what other people bring from their religious backgrounds or cultural backgrounds or how they're raised. Bringing all those differences out is what makes us better. And so I'm constantly curious about it. I'm always asking, and I consider myself to be a pretty open-minded person who, is inclusive. And that's what I believe, and that's what I try to teach my own kids and our campers at camp and the people around me.
I like it. I think that can be the perfect answer for my next question. I'm just having in my mind here, because my observation is a lot of amazing women, right? In business or with international background. We sometimes will always having some fit-in challenge, right? How to fit in. So what would be your advice to our amazing women with international background? What can they do to better fit in as an insider?
Be yourself. Be authentic. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Ask questions when you're not sure why something in the American culture is done a certain way. Just ask. Know the why behind certain decisions that are being made that you agree or don't agree with. Don't be afraid to not have to, if somebody's not the right fit for you as a friend or a partner or, a business relationship, it's okay to say, I'm okay not having that relationship with you. I respect you for who you are and what you're doing, and you can go off and do that in a world that makes sense to you, but it doesn't feel right to me. I think it's okay to not be a part of something that doesn't feel like it's a good fit. It doesn't, doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel authentic. But yeah, I think women, regardless of their background, we see it all the time in tennis. Like, we just need to keep supporting each other. We need to keep building each other up and bringing out the best in one another. And I don't think that matters where you're coming from. I think it matters that you show up and that you do the things that you say that you're going to do.
And then you do the best, right? And then you speak to yourself. Just be yourself.
Just be yourself.
Just be yourself. I like it.
If somebody doesn't like you for who you are,
just walk away.
Walk away. You'll find a lot of other people who do.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure we are not going to walk away from each other.
No.
we share so much.
Be in each other's lives for a long time.
So, what will be your favorite book that you recommend to my audience?
My family would laugh at this question a lot because for a long time I was not a reader. And then
like doing things.
I like to do it. Reading reminded me of being in school, right? I didn't like being in school. But in my last probably 10 to 15 years of adult life, I've become much more of a reader. I like fiction and mysteries and romantic stories and comedies and anything that makes me laugh. I happen to love the book The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's not at all a book that I would recommend to somebody who's looking to read something that is like inspirational. It's going to open your mind to like you know, a whole new way of thinking, but it's a great story. Yeah, I mean, I like reading is like tennis for me. So I need to read something that takes my mind off of anything that stresses me out. That's why I play tennis too. I'm on the tennis court and I play, and all of the stressors in my world sort of go away. And for me, reading, that's what reading does for me too. So I kind of keep it light. I don't necessarily have any like real inspirational books to give your listeners, but anything that makes me laugh, anything that makes me think, anything that makes me sort of be able to build a vision or you know, in my head that distracts me from the stresses of the real world are things that I like to read and enjoy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And when I don't have anything to read, I love a good crossword puzzle.
That's the part I never get into.
No?
No.
Oh, I love a good crossword puzzle, and Jeopardy is my favorite television show. So.
Oh, yes. This is really fun.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Rachel, for joining my podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really proud of you. This is a really cool thing that you're doing, and I think it's just awesome. You're probably getting to meet, I mean, you're interviewing mostly people that you know, right?
Quickly, I'm going to reach out to people I don't know.
But you're probably learning a lot about the people that you already do know, like learning a lot more about
it gives me the chance to go deeper.
Yeah.
Right? To get to know my friends in a deeper way.
Yeah.
And also I'm learning. And I do think every one of us, we are having amazing story to share. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be high, it can be low, it can be frustration, it can be happy moment. But the most important, and just tapping to what you just mentioned, is we just be ourselves, be authentic. We are who we are.
Yeah. And
I'm pretty sure our audience will appreciate the way that we are. And they might take one or two key takeaways out of our conversation. The mission is accomplished.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Amazing Women in Business. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to share this episode with another amazing woman in business who will benefit from our community and content. Together, we can empower more women to achieve their full potential. Until next time, keep thriving and breaking barriers.